Hello, hello, Cassie Brown here. I am thrilled to welcome you to the Brace for Impact podcast. I've been incredibly blessed to work with and coach some of the top entrepreneurs, CEOs, and marketers in the industry. And do you know the one thing that they all had in common? They didn't wait for the perfect time, but hit the ground running. They learned to see opportunity in motion and just leap. I created this podcast to help other entrepreneurs own their calling, expand their influence, get uncomfortable, embrace the growth of the journey to leave an impact on the world around them. For those who are ready to stop playing it small, to pick up the mantle of contribution that our clients in the world so desperately need. If that's you, then get ready to brace for impact as I share with you the top strategies, real truths, and hacks to crash through the obstacles and arrive in alignment of integrity, impact, and income. It's time to initiate the ripple effect of change. All right. Hi, guys. Cassie Brown here. And I have an incredibly talented sales professional, a wonderful friend, and the guy has a heart bigger than this galaxy. I am with Stan Way today. He is the owner and founder of Peak Sales Results. And he spent over a decade of his life working in corporate America with Fortune 100 sales companies before he transitioned and building his own online empire, emphasizing authenticity and transparency through sales and marketing. I'm so super excited to welcome him here on the podcast today because when you think about impact and the way that he is creating and building a legacy, not only of his own, but for every single person he comes into contact with, Stan just eats, sleeps, and breathes what purpose is all about. So Stan, thank you for being here and welcome.
Oh my gosh. No, I'm so excited, Cassie. Thank you for having me. I'm pumped.
Awesome. So we have a ton of ground to cover because you are famous for over delivering and content and value. So I won't waste one single minute. Please let us know where you came up with just this passion around being your true authentic self and pouring it into every single part of your business.
Oh man, that is such a good question. Wow. Whew, you hit hard right out of the gate, Cassie. Yeah, no, I've always, there's a saying I heard a lot growing up, and it's whate'er thou art, act well thy part. And I realized like most entrepreneurs and like the people listening to this podcast, I realized I'm kind of a different kind of guy. I'm unique. It's not like, I don't have superpowers, but I'm a unique person. I like weird things and all sorts of stuff. But I always thought I just want to be the best me, and so, luckily I've always been able to find myself in positions professionally where I've been able to just be me, which me is, I love people. I love talking to people and that might, I say that, I'm kind of introverted, but I'm known as a salesperson, a sales trainer, and a marketer and everything, and so I think that's a huge misnomer or misconception among entrepreneurs is everyone's super outgoing and everything. Yeah, I seem outgoing because I'm talking to you and, we're friends and it's a podcast interview, but no, I'm kind of an introverted guy and I would rather sit down with a book at night than hang out with people. But yeah, I guess, it just comes from the fact that I thought I want to take whatever my talents and gifts that I have been given or have been able to graciously been able to develop and just use them to the benefit of others. So yeah, I mean, I guess my passion for, serving others and everything that I do just comes from the fact that that's what I want to do. It's fun. It's fun for me.
I love it. And I love that you highlighted that you just wanted to be the best me. And it takes me back to a conversation that I had with my husband, who, by the way, is, I think if you've taken any personality test, you guys would probably be super similar. He calls himself the chameleon because he can interact and be okay in crowds, but he does prefer to just be quietly at home, not in the mix of everything, but he can absolutely hold his own in a group. So I think you guys would get along well. But he asked me one day, do you ever just wish away the week? And it kind of took me aback, and I had to ask him well, what do you mean? He's like, well, it's Monday and I am just looking forward to Saturday. So I'm wishing away almost 5 days every single week, week after week of my life. And almost like I had this pain, like I really, really, really love what I do.
Yeah.
I mean, it lights me up and it energizes me. And I know you have that same passion. So, can you share like a little bit, like having that fire and that passion? Because I know how you stand up and deliver. So, I know what you brought to those Fortune 100 companies in corporate America. But can you talk about like what that transition looked like for you? Like, was there an aha moment, like where there's more to me than this?
Well, I think, most people, you know, people meet me and they're like, "Oh, wow, did you just drink 10 cups of coffee sometimes?" And I'm like, "No, this is just me. I haven't have only had water today." I think having like a true passion and passion for life, like every day, and not wanting to wish it away, kind of like you just gave, that example. Like I think it comes from the fact that most people in life, they have the idea for what they think they want, but it's what they think they want. And because they haven't been taught to set real goals, or they haven't been authentic to themselves and what their true passion and desires are, because they're afraid of what their spouse or their partner or their mom or their dad or, their third grade teacher might think of them, like they never live up or express what they really want to be. And because of that, they have this misdiagnosed conglomerate of a zombie personality that they think they want, and so they're working towards this thing that they think they want, but it's not what they really want. And so then they think, oh my gosh, and they get stuck in this mindset, perpetual cycle of being like, oh well, I'm not getting where I want in life, and they're finding reasons and excuses not to do things. They're like, oh well, I'm a procrastinator. And I don't believe that anyone's really a procrastinator, and I don't believe that most people really have authentic, real goals. I think most people are trying to live their life according to the dictates of others. And because of that, they're subconsciously kind of messing themselves up. But when people find what they, when they're really authentic and they're like, hey, what do I want to do in the next 3 to 5 years? And they're authentic with it, and they can be authentic with others around it, then they have their drive, they have their purpose. And when you move towards that goal, you don't, you stop having inaction, you start having real action. And so that's where, in sales, because a lot of people know me as a sales coach, sales trainer, all sorts of different things in sales. Like for me, it's really easy to just really strip away a sales process and just kind of cut the bull crap and say, hey, where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years? What's your goal? Like, seriously, just tell me. And when people tell me, I'll go, okay, cool. Well, like, look, this is the product or service. This is how it might get you there. Do you think it aligns? And it's really easy, and so I think that's where it comes from for me. And that's where, anyone who works with me in any sort of coaching or mentoring or anything, I always try to get to, where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years? Okay, what are you doing right now, and how does it serve getting you there? And if it's not serving getting you there, if you can't see it, your life is miserable, but it comes back to the fact, I think, honestly, most people aren't even honest with themselves about where they really want to be, because they're afraid of what it could be.
Oh my gosh, that was beautiful. And like if we were playing Scrabble, you would have like incredible, like super duper points because you said two 4-syllable words paired with zombie. And that just blows me away. I love vocabulary. You said misdiagnosed conglomerate and then zombie. I feel like we could just do mic drop right there. But just I love where you went with it. Like, are you even being true to your authentic self? So kind of let's dive a little bit deeper there. And first, what would you encourage someone to do, like if they find themselves in that situation? How do you get to be true to your authentic self?
Yeah, well, I think it comes down to, the question I ask, and let me be really clear, like I didn't invent this question. I had a coach and a mentor who, I feel old when I say this, like 13, 14 years ago, shared this with me, but he asked the question. He said, well, what would you do with your life if money and time were not anything that would stand in the way? Like, what would you want to really do with your life? And that's, most people can't even begin to answer that, because time and money are the things that hold everyone back. But I think if you can really answer that and find a real answer, not like a, well, I want to live on a yacht and sail around the world and, eat caviar every day, like that. Okay, that's cool. Like you'd get bored with it. Okay, connections and experiences are what's meaningful. But when people can really strip that away and say, oh, what in life do I enjoy, whatever it is, and if you can find a way to find your, let your life serve that, that's okay. And so this is where, like, I have a friend. He has a job. He makes like $52,000 a year here in Alabama where I live. Like, that's that's a great income, especially in the part of Alabama where he lives. He's got multiple children. Like, his where he wants to be in 3 to 5 years is he wants to be a good dad, and he wants to be able to take his sons to their baseball games and go to the tournaments and everything. He is one of the most happiest, fulfilled people I know. And he makes $52,000 a year, but he's happy in his position because that job serves his fulfillment of being a good dad and a good spouse to his wife. He's truly one of the happiest people I know, as opposed to, entrepreneurs and like really driven people who are probably listening to this and they're like, oh my gosh, I want to make 6 figures a year. Well, I've been in multiple coaching programs and taught people, and whenever someone shared that with me, I'm like, well, do you really? What do you really want? And I coached and mentored an individual. Gosh, it's been almost 3 years ago now. Like, they said they wanted, to build this business. She had a digital marketing agency. She said, oh my gosh, I want to make 6 figures a month in my agency and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, I don't think you really do. And we got talking, and she really loved dancing, and a very specific type of dancing. And her husband went and did it all the time. And it's funny, I've gotten Christmas cards from this individual every single year for the last few years. It makes me weep every time I read it, because she now has a very simple, scaled back business. She grosses $15,000 to $20,000 a month in her business, but it brings home enough money that her and her husband are not financially strapped, and they get to go dancing all the time. And they're the happiest people in the world, and they're 85 million times happier than they were just a few years ago. And so I think, once again, it was someone who had a vision for what she thought she wanted, because she wanted to compare herself to everyone else and her business. But it's really, well, what do you want? What do you enjoy? And if you can find a business that serves that, cool, you will succeed. You will have passion.
I love that. I think this, like, to summarize that just beautiful story, is we absolutely have the power to define our own success and what that really looks like. I can identify with that so strongly. When I was a photographer, the status quo of the industry was flying all over internationally and taking, photos of weddings and France and the castles of England and Ireland and Australia, and and getting published in this magazine and that magazine. And when I first started, I was judging myself against that level of success when I had 2 young boys at home. And finally, like, the reality of that set in, like what that would look like, because you would easily have to travel 2 days ahead of time to get to the location to scout and figure things out, actually shoot the event, fly back, and then edit, and just be exhausted because of the time zones and everything. So, like, the more I saw the reality of what everyone else was telling me was successful, but also on the back end of it, where I did have friends that were absolutely running themselves ragged just to kind of live that perfect social media highlight reel. But you couldn't talk to them 5 days out of the week because they were trying to sleep it off. And, they were months behind on client delivery, or racked up so much outsourcing debt that the profit margin, it was actually, breaking down to just a break even event. And so really stepping back and taking a long, hard look at what that reality is and how you're defining success is really, really important. So thank you for that. Can you talk to us about your transition and where you're going, and where you're kind of putting your own stake in the ground right now?
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, right now, I'll share with you. I went to a business event, Funnel Hacking Live, earlier this year. We're recording this November 2019. I went to Funnel Hacking Live in February of this year. I had an amazing time, hung out with clients and friends from all over the world. Obviously, it's an amazing event. But I left that event and was actually going to hang out with some friends for a couple days afterwards, and I ended up getting a fever. and feeling really sick one night. And that was Sunday night after the event. And the next morning I woke up and I was just sick. And I was like, oh gosh, I was so sick, so sick. And I had a thermometer and I pulled out the thermometer and I actually looked at this picture the other day. I took a picture of the thermometer and I've been wrong. I've been telling a lie for like 9 months now. I thought I had a 108.7 degree fever. As it turns out, I had a 109.1 degree fever. And
Holy smokes, that's emergency room status.
exactly. I took a picture of it, sent it to my friend, and I was like, help. And, my friend got me the medical attention I needed, and I barely remember that day. I barely remember that day. And I honestly barely remember the next couple of weeks after that. And I had influenza and I was told, I could have died. And I was told, you may have damage, and I walked away from that event and it took me weeks to recover. And and then during recovery, I got like a sinus infection. Then I got like an ear infection. I just kept getting sick and they kept pumping me full of steroids. And I gained a lot of weight and I was sick and everything. And I realized I had let my life get to a point in my business and fulfilling for my clients and my students and everyone around me. I had spread myself too thin, and physically my body gave me that warning. And I mean, I almost lost it. I recognized that I almost lost the beautiful blessing that is life. And I walked away from that, and it took me a couple months, but I created a new mission statement for my business. So peak sales results. We've been a sales training company. We've been an agency. We've been a lot of things, but we walked away from that. And the new mission statement is to do cool things with cool people in cool places and sell and market products and services that change the world and make it a better place. And that's the vision for my business. That's the vision for my life is, connections and doing cool things with cool people in cool places, and not marketing crap online or not selling, junk that people don't need, but actually promoting things that make the world a better place. And so, it's been this fun development over the last few months. I fired a lot of clients. I got rid of a lot of clients. I literally put a lot of money to the side to the point where those who were close to me were like, you are not smart. Um, but it was because, I realized I wanted to align myself and my business to fulfill that mission statement. And so, yeah, now as it's still a digital marketing agency, still a sales and marketing company, still a coaching platform, but also coming out with a brand and a new brand, which is Growth Labs, where, currently in the near future and in the distant future, I know we'll have the ability to coach and train individuals across multiple niches and industries, both in regards to business and health and wellness and so many different platforms, because that's the thing. One day I will die, but when I do, I want to have left the world a better place. So yeah, it's been a fun transition.
I love that. Just carrying over your true, authentic self into that alignment and the adaptability of just where you've grown and pivoted over the years. So, is there a standout point of growth that you feel like just set you on this fiery path, determined to just lay the foundation for that legacy? And I could just, everyone's just listening to this in audio form, but you can feel the energy and the passion behind the statement that you, when you talk about the legacy of what you're building and how you want to impact others and what you want to leave when you're not here anymore.
Yeah. Well, is there a defining moment? I mean, there's hundreds, and just like yourself, Cassie, and probably anyone listening to this, like, everyone has those moments in life where it could have been a life-changing moment, but maybe you made the left turn instead of the right turn, or this happened or that happened, and maybe you believe in a universe with infinite possibilities and parallel universes, and there's a version of you out there who made the other choice. And if so, that's cool. Mathematically, that might be a chance. But we I think we all have those moments where, yeah, it changed. And for me, I think this year and that health scare was a big one. But there's been so many, and I've had so many mentors and coaches through the years, and people who have helped me and given me advice. I remember an old man I used to go to church with, and I bumped into him, inside a church building one day, and, it was a random weekday, but I there to try to show my religious faith, at the time. And I walk in, he says, "How you doing?" And I was a corporate sales trainer for an insurance company at the time. He said, "How you doing?" And, old guy, really respect. I said, "I'm great. I'm busy." So I'm really busy. And he grabbed my hand and he looked me deep in the eyes and he like grabbed my elbow as well. And he said, "You're busy, but are you making any money?" And,
Oh
I was
gosh,
probably
I
22 at the
love
time.
it.
I was probably 22 at the time, but that man has since passed away. And I don't even know if I do not know if I've ever shared this story anywhere, but there's probably not a day goes by where I don't think of that interaction with that man on a random Wednesday in a church building, where like on days like today, where like my schedule is really busy and everything, I'm thinking, well, am I busy, but am I making the world a better place? And for me, it's not about money. I mean, money is a cool, useful tool. Don't get me wrong. I love money, but at the end of the day, am I providing value somewhere? And when you look at your life, and the only asset we really have is time. It's the one thing we'll never get back. So how to leverage our life and our business to get as much time as possible. That's what's important to me.
I love it. And that's exactly the path that you're laying. That's what you're teaching everyone to do is to really dig deep into their talents and their gifts that they were blessed to do and really step into their purpose. And and I love that because you're digging out what they were made to do and you're optimizing it like to the nth degree so that they can really have that control of time and just make the most and put that value, like you said. And it's not about the amount of money that comes in, but what are you doing to leave an impact?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Warren Buffett, and I'm paraphrasing here, but Warren Buffett, said poor people use their time to make money, but rich people use their money to buy back their time. And I think it's such a true statement, because money, it's fickle. At the end of the day, my 3-year-old girl and my 5-year-old boy, they honestly don't care how much me or my business make. They don't care if I'm on a podcast interview today, but they do care if I work with my son on his handwriting tonight. My daughter cares,
No,
but my daughter cares if my daughter cares if we sing Space Unicorns tonight. Like that's what my daughter cares about. At the end of the day, nothing else matters.
I love it. I love it. I actually have some unicorn songs that I can exchange with you because we have a 5-year-old daughter as well. So I will send you some new lyrics to mix it up. But I know exactly what you're talking about because I did reach a point in my business where it was literally I was looking at it and about someone to pay me that I would be willing to exchange for not making the Mother's Day tea party or not being able to go to a school or field trip event or one of their athletic games. Like that's kind of where my mind started to shift. Like, what amount of money is necessary for me to walk away from that experience of being
Mm-hmm.
fully present?
Yeah. It's funny how, no matter who's listening to this, like everyone's on different points in their life journey and their entrepreneurial journey. But like, exactly what you just said, like everyone has to take that moment and be like, what is my time? What is my value? What is my value? And really charge accordingly, because I think most people undercharge, and that's why they're struggling, in business, and even, in a mindset. It gets in a mindset funk because you're not charging, but you're bringing results, and it's once again a perpetual circle of So yeah, no, I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah, that is awesome. Well, I know we're coming up on the top of the hour. We have a few more minutes together, and I just really wanted to open up just the floor to you to see, is there anything on your heart or that you've been wanting to talk about, or something that no one's really ever asked you about, but it's just sort of like that burning that, yeah, this is super important. Not a lot of people are talking about it.
Yeah. Well, no. Open forum.
Open
Um,
forum.
Dangerous with
Roll
someone
up the
like me.
sleeves.
I think, because of who's listening to this podcast, I think it's really, really important to kind of stick with the theme that you've kind of brought up is authenticity. And because of who's listening to this podcast, it's people who are driven. They're trying to make an impact. They have businesses. They're trying to, be movers and shakers. And so my biggest thing I would ever want to share is just, truly be authentic, be your best self, and be your true self. Don't hold back of being whoever you are, because whoever you are as an individual, you are a divine and sacred and special thing. And I don't care what your religious tradition or spiritual practice or lack thereof and scientific belief is, you are a miracle, period. And so the fact that you're here, why would you ever speak evil of that? That there's a beautiful miracle that's inside of you. So why hold that back? So show the world whatever that is, and whatever gifts and talents you have or don't have, don't be afraid to use them, or, not use them. Because I work with so many digital marketers and so many people in the business entrepreneurial space, so many people, like, they're like me, they're introverted, but they're kind of extroverted when they need to be, but introverted, and a lot of time in sales processes, they get held back thinking they need to be something they're not, or they need to be, this big shiny business. I teach, because I work with a lot of digital marketing agencies and marketers. I always tell people, like, hey, on your sales calls, during the introduction, say, hey, I'm Stan, and I'm calling here from my home office in Birmingham, Alabama. And a lot of people, like, they're like afraid to even say, oh, I'm working from home. Heck, in the United States, literally, there was a survey that came out the other day that showed that 86% of Americans want to work from home, which just goes and proves to me that 86% of Americans have no idea how hard it is to work from home and want to work and also do laundry at the same time. But but I share that because why not share that? Because it's truth, and honesty is good. But secondary to that, you're living someone's dream, even though you think, oh, my business, my startup here in my house, it's nothing, and people will think less of me if they know I'm working from a room in my house. No, people will connect with you for being authentic, but they'll also admire you and think, man, I wish I was working at home. Tell me more about that. So, and I use that as just one example. I think everyone has unique gifts. I think most people are afraid to share them or be their full authentic self. And so, I think there's a beautiful, beautiful freedom and happiness and pure joy that comes in life when you step into your true self and you stop worrying about what other people think, and for me, sadly, I share this, sadly, most of my family's gone. I'm young, I'm 35, but my father has passed away. My mother's passed away. I don't have siblings. I have some extended family out there, but I don't have any family like I go hang out with on any holiday. And I share that because it wasn't until I was kind of an adult orphan where I realized, like, I didn't have to live up to someone else's expectations, and I could be the best version of me. And sadly, like many people listening to this, my mother, most wonderful woman in the world, but she had expectations for me as an adult man that I was trying to fulfill for her, sadly, and I think most people are like that. They're doing things for other people instead of for themselves.
I am so glad that I unleashed you on this open topic, because that was so spot on and beautiful. I think there's so many people that have just been listening that kind of breathed a sigh of relief, where it's like, yes, full permission to be myself, who I was uniquely made to be, for the purpose that and that's the thing, like, we admire other gifts in other people, and we don't appreciate ours because the nature of our gifts typically are because the way that we experience them anyway, it's so easy. It's easy as breathing or just second nature. So it's not something we ever stop to appreciate. But I just love that you took the time to really speak those beautiful words into everyone that's listening, so that they can take that step back and realize what a unique and beautiful creature they are. They are made to be in whatever capacity, and just to break free. Like, I don't know, like, I had to catch my breath when you said that you were, for so long you were living someone else's expectations for your life. And I really think that's a big bridge that we all have to cross. Like the first time that you feel kind of like that streak of independence where it's like, it becomes clear that you're deviating from the path that was the status quo or what everyone else's expectations were for you. But then you started letting that little light come on, that what gives you purpose and brings you like pure joy and satisfaction.
Yeah. I mean, how many people listening to this are not, publishing the book because they're afraid their husband will think less of them? I mean, how many people are keeping from starting the business because they're afraid they might fail and they don't want to be judged by their brother or sister? Like, how many people are stopping from doing that big thing in life because they're afraid someone else will judge them? Like, and like that is, I just think that's the greatest. I don't personally, I don't know that sin is you know, believe what you might think about sin or anything, but I think the greatest sin anyone could have in life is not doing those things. It's a sin against yourself and the divinity that is within you to keep yourself from doing those things, because at the end of the day, you who you are, people can judge you. You're the rumors will always, oh, he was a terrible author, oh, they started this business, they failed, blah 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 blah. Who cares? Only you know your character, and as long as you're being kind and you're being honest, nothing else matters. I mean, back to my children, we have two rules. The Way household has two rules, and my 5-year-old, my 3-year-old can state them at any point when I point to them. They say, rule number 1 is be kind. Rule number 2 is be honest. And I honestly believe if my kids do just those two things, the rest of their lives will be magical. And I think anyone listening, if they're kind and they're honest, nothing else matters. Life will treat them well. Business, the marketplace, consumers, their tribes will treat them well.
That is awesome. And such an incredible point to end on. Dan, thank you so much for spending time with us and just pouring your heart out. I love that we were able to just take those deep reflections and, more of an introspective look really than, tactical business applications, because the truth of the matter is who we are, true to our core, is going to determine the strength and the foundation of everything in our life, from personal to business and everything in between. So I think it was a topic that was really important to be drawn out and discussed. And I hope it's given everyone just, that space to really reflect on who they really are and who they want to be.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. No, I'm so glad we got to hang out, Cassie. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. We will definitely follow up. Please let everyone know where to find you or where to connect with you. And also we can definitely circle back around and kind of have a bookend podcast where this is really, really true to the core on, in my opinion, business is personal. So this hits on one, and we could wrap up after your launch and just to kind of follow up and see how everything's going and what strategies worked and didn't. So we'll kind of bookend it with, some internal and personal growth strategy at the front end, and then on the back end, how they were, efficiently applied in business.
Yeah. So anyone who's listening, my main business, peaksalesresults.com, we are a sales and marketing company. But then, because I have worked with so many other digital marketers and helped agencies build, grow, and scale over the last few years, and obviously run an agency myself and love sales and marketing. It's my true passion. At agencygrowthlabs.com. Where we do have some training available for people. And then anyone who's looking, for the people who have found their purpose or found that divinity within themselves, we do have coursegrowthlabs.com, which is course, COURSE, growthlabs.com, where, I literally help people walk through the process of bringing, their best self into a coaching and training methodology. So thank you. I appreciate it, Cassie.
Awesome. And I appreciate you as well. All right, everybody, that is all we have for today, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. I hope you've received value, encouragement, and exactly what you need to help keep you in momentum to grow and impact the world around you. Big or small, we all make a difference. Thanks also for subscribing, downloading, and leaving a review. This helps us reach others who need this message in their life. If you know anyone who would benefit from this podcast, please share so you and I can help more people boldly step into purpose. It is my heart's mission to help and encourage others. My internal belief that a rising tide lifts all ships. So much of what we talk about on the podcast is leading with value and building relationships through service. So we've created a collection of resources for you to continue growing, whether you are just getting started or ready to scale your business. Visit amplifymyimpact.com for show notes, downloads, programs, and more information about how to directly work with our team to amplify your impact and change the world.